Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Reinke and Andy Zull. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net, industrial equipment news, food manufacturing, and industrial distribution, and we have more than 20 years of experience covering this beautiful, wonderful manufacturing landscape. Every week, we take the 5 biggest stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Oh man, I think, Andy, that means we should have taken some off of your sites as well. Sorry about that.
No worries. I was distracted by something I'll get into a little bit later.
All right, sounds good. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use, even a simple thumbs up on YouTube. If you're watching it right now, that thumbs up on YouTube really helps us out a lot. Finally, if you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us, Jeff, Anna, David, or Andy at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. We're also live every Thursday at 2 p.m., so subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine. Make sure you click the little, I think it's a bell now, to make sure you get notifications, so that way that little bell goes off when we're live every Thursday. Jeff, it's really important, the bell.
Ring the bell, folks.
Click the
Ring
bell.
the bell.
Yeah, ring it, click it, just make it yellow, or not yellow, I can't remember. This is really bad advice, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like doing a really good job of letting them know how not to find us on YouTube.
You are making this way more confusing than it needs to be.
Which is off-brand. How are you doing this week, Jeff?
Good to be back, man.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
No, it is. Oh, true. Are you refreshed, recharged?
Well, we've discussed this before. When you're going up to Eagle River, you turn onto Highway 8, and you just feel the load go off your shoulders. It's wonderful. But the other part of that is when you come Sunday night and you're turning back onto the interstate off of Highway 8, it's kind of like, well, it's back to the real world now. But
I do like to joke about how my exit on the interstate is like when the like sad crush of reality hits. Like that's when all the traffic from all
I wasn't going that dark.
No, like all up north converges on our exit, and it's just like, welcome back.
There's only like 3 exits up there. You got to go on one of them, you know?
I know, but it's like it does that. Like our exit is where it like grinds to a halt.
Yep.
It's just like you were getting ready to do some laundry, kind of decompress before getting a fresh start on Monday. Well, not yet.
Not quite.
How you doing this week, Andy?
Good. I was thinking my anxiety tends to ramp up as we like hit the button on this thing, but I had a little neighbor dance across my forehead as we went on the air.
Did a spider seriously land on you?
Just crossed across my windshield there.
This is incredible. For those who don't know, which is basically nobody in the studio.
Correct.
Or everybody.
Everyone in the studio and nobody else.
Yes, that's right. We recently had our office treated because of this harrowing infestation that we had, particularly spiders, right? Up until this treatment, we had not really seen any spiders. And then a woman comes in, puts a couple of shots in every corner. She's like, that should do it. Nothing but spider sense. I'm pretty sure she just planted like eggs.
We were joking at lunch that maybe it was like spider pheromones or something.
Okay. Like draw them in and then kill them.
Yeah. So. Or that they were on the ground and now they've climbed up to where we can see them more.
Oh, actually.
I just thought of that, actually. I don't know.
No, that one really makes sense.
But this guy was right up there and just like dropped down right there.
It is. So. It's incredible. Like, I'm really enjoying this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, me too, actually, except for this little incident.
Except for the one on your forehead?
Yes,
yeah,
while I'm live on camera, yes.
You don't want to start that way.
Not really, but only can go up from here.
We got to see if producer Eric can actually capture that one on...
he was very tiny. He's long gone. He's long gone.
All right. Well, before we get into our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor. This week's episode is brought to you by Hexagon. Quickly addressing and eliminating known problems in your facility can save you from a damaged reputation, fines, and even an unplanned shutdown. One of the most effective ways to resolve an issue is by identifying its root cause, which is achieved by conducting a root cause analysis. However, it's essential to note that a root cause analysis done incorrectly can waste considerable time and resources. Well, a new paper from Hexagon, 6 mistakes manufacturers make when trying to fix an issue, gives you 6 common yet critical mistakes you need to avoid. So download this paper right now. There's a link to it in the live chat as well as the body copy. Our first story this week. Aluminum tariffs may kill one of the best deals in beverages. Since 1992, Arizona Iced Tea has sold its tall boys for 99 cents, a price point that's so set it's actually printed right on the can. According to the New York Times, the iconic cost could be in jeopardy. Arizona has been able to keep prices low by running a vertically integrated production process. For example, the company built its own railroad to bring tankers of sugar directly into its New Jersey factory. But now the company's founder, Don Voltaggio, says Trump's 50% tariffs on aluminum imports could finally force Arizona to bump up the price. Even though 80% of the aluminum used to manufacture the iced tea tall boys is recycled, it still needs to source the other 20% from Canada. The tariffs, combined with rising costs from domestic suppliers, has forced Voltaggio to possibly reconsider consumer prices. Voltaggio said, quote, "I hate even the thought of it. It would be a hell of a shame after 30 plus years." Jeff, is this the end of the 99-cent Arizona tall boy?
Well, ultimately, that is up to Arizona Iced Tea. This is something we've talked about, these tariffs a lot, passing costs along to consumer. We've predicted this was going to hit in some areas, and this is the first, I guess, more real-world example of it.
Yeah.
We've talked about other areas that could hit, and I hate to sound like a broken record here, but I feel like we keep getting the same point when we talk about these tariffs, and that's that there can be, in my opinion, some economic benefit to applying these tariffs, but they have to be situational in some respect. And in this instance, it is like watching a cat chase its tail almost, because when you look at the whole dynamic at play here, right, when we talk about these tariffs, the ultimate goal is to bring these jobs back to the U.S. Well, there's a reason why we lost aluminum production jobs. Energy is really expensive here. Labor is very expensive here. And when you look at Canada in particular, there's a lot of geographies up there where they have these smelting facilities where energy costs are that much lower, where the U.S. can't compete. Now, there are other examples. When we look at China, for instance, where there's currency manipulation, there's state-owned industry, where they are manipulating the price so we're not competitive. Apply those tariffs. That makes sense, because in that instance, you're providing a more competitive marketplace for all involved without hurting the consumer potentially, or in this case, Arizona Iced Tea, who's going to pass it along to the consumer. But in this instance, you're hurting them because obviously they have to pay more for this aluminum. And with the ultimate goal of bringing those types of industries back to the U.S., yes, there's two big plants that are scheduled. One in Alabama that should open next year sometime. Another big one in Oklahoma in 2030. Yeah. So there's no immediate remedy. And at the same time, we're going to run into those same issues. It's still going to be expensive to produce. There's a lot of energy that's going to be used because it's a very energy-intensive process. Labor is still going to be expensive. So these prices aren't necessarily going to come down. Yeah, that's great that the aluminum is going to be made in the U.S., but guess what? In order to make that aluminum in the U.S., we're still going to need something called bauxite. Guess where all the bauxite's going to come from?
Offsite?
Canada.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just going in a big circle here, and I don't understand the benefit. Again, there are places to apply these tariffs. This is a bad one, and we're seeing a real-world example here with Arizona Iced Tea, because everybody sees that in the gas station when you go in for a drink.
Very familiar.
Whatever. And it's going to hit other places too. They're not going to be the only one that feels the impact of this aluminum price increase.
What do you think, talking about taking a page from the China strategy, what do you think of this sort of effort to nationalize, or at least partially nationalize, some of these companies? You know, we've seen U.S. Steel not necessarily have government ownership, but definitely a government say. And now we're flirting with the government owning a piece of Intel. I mean, how do you feel about that?
I think it would be the absolute worst possible step to take.
Yeah.
I mean, where have we seen other state-owned industries? I know we're not talking about ownership, but we have a stake in it. And they can say all they want about non-voting shares and everything else. There's no way. There's not going to be some regulatory action, some sort of something that's going to impact decisions that would have been made differently if there wasn't a share in these industries. The track record for state-owned industry, when you look at Russia, China, Venezuela, Mexico, it doesn't work very well. It's not a good idea, especially when you're looking at a capitalist economy that's built on fair competition in theory,
Yeah.
across the playing field. So I think it's a very dangerous precedent. I think it's very concerning that the amount that the Trump administration wants to be involved in private business.
Well, Andy, what I find interesting is that so we want to limit government and run government like a business, except for businesses that we want to run with our government. And it's just, kind of playing off of Jeff's cat chasing its own tail. I don't know. I guess it's part of the strategy, right? The, what is it? Where they're coming at you from all angles. Why can I not think of the term right now? It's gone. It's automatically gone. But what do you think about that? About, sort of the government playing a larger role in some of these businesses?
My instinct is to kind of chuckle about how certain entities in our politics have ginned up fears of socialism for decades upon decades and decades, only to now embrace owning a computer chip.
Yeah,
a part of a steel maker and a computer chip maker. Like that's not a threat, but whatever extending like Medicare is, like it's just ironic. I don't know if ironic is the term, but that's what it feels like.
Well, it's hypocritical to say you shouldn't be involved in one area, but you need to be involved in another.
It's I don't know. When people talk about, because there's this idea that's kind of been raised here and there when talking about tariffs, about people will say, well, tariffs are a tax on consumers. And I feel like maybe it's kind of hard to visualize that because it doesn't compute like you're bringing stuff into the country. Where is the consumer involved there? This is an example of it, right? This company makes their tea and it's packaged in aluminum, so they have to pay more for aluminum, and they absorb it to the point where they say we can't do this anymore, and then it gets passed along to the consumer. So that's what we're talking about here. The other thing I thought with this story was, as Jeff was talking about, the idea behind these is to generate an American aluminum industry again, which, fine. But these people that make Arizona iced tea in New Jersey, those are manufacturing jobs too. Mm-hmm. And that's their livelihoods potentially on the line here. If somebody goes into a gas station and sees the price of an iced tea go up 50%, maybe they'll go to the fountain instead. Mm-hmm. Like these are all, and these things add up. Yeah. That's just anecdotal and hypothetical at this point because they haven't raised the price yet. But at some point, those things add up. So
I think we're playing a lot of that now anyways.
I don't think when people think of manufacturing jobs, when they picture in their head, they don't picture an iced tea factory, but that's a manufacturing job. So it's, doing this, and Jeff talked about this too, it's a sledgehammer approach when it should be a scalpel approach.
Yeah.
It's just, this is what's going to happen. And this is not going to be the last time we're going to hear one of these stories either.
Yes. Flood the zone.
Oh, there you go.
Flood the zone.
I was thinking bombardment or something.
Yeah, bombardment.
Okay.
Yeah, same, but like,
sure.
Just come on. All of a sudden there and it's gone. And when you think about American jobs, like there is no more of an American success story, right? This 22-ounce can has been 99 cents for 30 plus years now. When the company was launched out of a Brooklyn warehouse in 1992, this has been kind of a hot topic. And so Don Voltaggio, and really, if he does need to raise prices, or even if he chooses not to, he's already kind of got a lot of marketing out of this entire situation. In an interview this morning with the Today Show, Voltaggio said, quote, "Right now, no, we have no plan to do it. We're trying to hold the line." Voltaggio says the cans are costing him about 40% more, and he's just been eating the cost. I think that something's either going to have to give, or, as a person that's worth $6.2 billion, we see somebody that's just like, nope, this is worth it. Like, make a really big deal out of it, use it as a talking point, and I could take a little bit of a hit on this one. He says, quote, and this is the line that I think is going to actually gain him a lot of traction. He says, "I can kind of tighten my belt because the people I service and the customers of mine, they're tightening their belt every day." And when it comes to, if you can just take that messaging and equate it with Arizona iced tea, I think that you can really tie into the whole, patriotic, nationalistic bent that we're going on culturally here to sell a few more cans of iced tea.
I think there's also going to be at some point sort of a market sector backlash.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not just going to be Arizona iced tea. It's going to be Pepsi and Coke and Miller Coors and Anheuser-Busch saying, we need aluminum, we need these cans. And not only is there not enough supply here in the U.S., but you're driving up all of our costs.
Yeah.
That's going to make us, guess what, look at things like our workforce. And what do we need to do to streamline here to preserve our profits, because we've got shareholders to answer to. All of these things just have so many interrelated components that seem to be just brushed over and not paid attention to by the administration that's making these decisions, which again, in theory, there's positive here, but the execution is just a real head scratcher.
It seems like right now it's like industry groups that are kind of pushing, they're kind of trying to nudge the White House along and be like, hey, this is not good for us, this like sledgehammer approach. And this might be maybe the first of a wave of actual companies coming out and being like, hey, this is not good for us.
Yeah, I mean, people coming out against it. Josh Shanahan, 551, commented, "Oh, God, no." And Jesse Brooks says, "This is what I keep telling people about these tariffs. They say that nothing really has changed here, but what they don't realize is that it will take about 6 to 7 months before it really starts affecting people. This is only just getting started. Our economy is going to tank hard." So, a fair amount of skeptics out there in terms of this working out. And I mean, we've talked about that multiple times on the podcast, how we have been surprised with how quickly it has had an impact and whether or not those were existing plans that are just being sort of rebranded as tariffs. But I mean, we're starting to see a real fallout now.
Absolutely.
All right, our next most popular story this week. Let's see if I can get through it without my brain stopping mid-sentence. All right, the growing threat of wiper malware. JP Castellanos is the Director of Threat Intelligence at Binary Defense, a company that helps manufacturers monitor, detect, and respond to cyber attacks. In a new article, Castellanos says that while ransomware may dominate the headlines, a quieter and more destructive threat is emerging. Quote, wiper malware. While ransomware typically holds your information for ransom, wipers are designed to permanently destroy data and systems, leaving no path to recovery and no leverage for negotiation. So far this year, wiper malware has emerged as a clear escalation in threats to industrial systems. For example, Cyber Avengers, which is spelled with a host of letters and numbers, an Iran-linked sabotage group has manipulated industrial controllers in water, wastewater, and oil and gas systems globally while allegedly preparing wiper-style attacks on critical industrial assets. For manufacturers, especially those that rely on older operational technology or OT systems, this threat is serious. Castellanos says wipers can cripple production, corrupt firmware, wipe Windows machines, and leave entire factories inoperable. Jeff, this one was new to me, to be honest, and it seems more anarchistic. How can manufacturers help prevent attacks from black hats who want to kind of burn it all to the ground?
Well, there's a lot of things, okay? And that's the sort of glass half full whenever we talk about industrial cybersecurity, is there's a lot of things that we can do. The problem is there's a lot of obstacles when it comes to operational technology in the industrial sector that we just never have done. Mm-hmm. We've been so excited to expand all these connectivity and different technologies that we're bringing to the plant floor that we didn't stop and say, hey, how do we also make them secure? All of this functionality is great. All these efficiencies we're realizing is great, but every time we develop one of these connective points, we're opening a door. Mm-hmm. Doors swing both ways. So we need to make sure all that's secure. And where that really starts is when I talk to a lot of these folks on the Security Breach podcast, is the hardest part, because it can become so daunting, is just to understand all of your endpoints, to understand what are all of my connectivity assets, if you will. What are all of my network assets? What is all the stuff where somebody could potentially get in? That is the place to start. And once you start looking at these, you can kind of identify priorities in terms of, okay, this is the most vulnerable. This is connected to the internet. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I should really make sure this has some sort of firewall, credentialing, whatever the case may be, it's secure. Because the harder you make a hacker's job, the more they're just going to go find somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't want to waste as much time. They'll be as efficient as possible, like anybody else.
Yeah. Plenty of easy targets still.
And the other thing, we talk about Cyber Avengers. They were one of the first ones that came on board because what they really considered themselves to be is a hacktivist. So they were going after Israeli water treatment facilities until what they realized kind of by accident is the same industrial control systems that are used at the Israeli water treatment facilities, which are these Unitronics PLCs. They're used all over the place.
They're everywhere, yeah.
They are used in U.S. breweries. They were shutting down a lot of different production facilities, not just utilities and water management locations around the world.
Yeah.
So once they realized, hey, we can get into all of these different industrial control systems this same way through this same path, they took advantage of it. Mm-hmm. Now, again, the good thing there is one of the things they were leveraging was bad credentials. Those were literally still admin type credentials on a lot of these PLCs that they were able to get into. So that's the second thing that manufacturers can and should do. And this was all kind of brought out in the article as well. But just get on top of those credentials. Put in those things that nobody likes, like double factor authentication. Make sure you're not sharing passwords. Make sure you've changed it from the admin password that it was originally set up with. So there's a lot of little things that can be done to protect against a lot of this new malware that's coming out there. This wiper stuff is unique. It is different. And the fact that there's no recourse, there's no double ransom, there's nothing else going on. They're just basically going in to wipe it clean. Again, that's because we're getting more state-sponsored they like to think of themselves as hacktivists, if you will, involved. These aren't just lone rangers out there trying to do their thing for profit. They do have somebody behind them. It's the usual suspects. It's Russia. It's North Korea. It's Iran. A lot of these folks are using now cyber warfare to get at our infrastructure. Again, manufacturing is sort of a bystander, if you will, in a lot of these cases because they're just going at the ICS and getting whatever they can out of there to get home.
At what point does cyber warfare potentially transition into escalated actual warfare?
Already there.
Okay.
I mean, we're already there. When you look at Ukraine, everything that's going on there, I mean, the latest example is basically they had one of their show of power parades in Moscow, and basically they hacked into satellites in Ukraine so that everybody in Ukraine had to watch this.
Okay.
So it's I mean, and that's a simple element of it, but when you think about satellites being controlled through a lot of these control systems, we think about all the telecommunications, drones, everything else, anything that has a signal going in and out of it can be manipulated in some way, shape, or form.
Well, that was... I mean, when these attacks, I mean, obviously this is something that you need to prepare against as much as ransomware for your own company. That's what I was thinking of in terms of infrastructure, utilities. You know, if all of a sudden somebody can come in and shut down our water, as we've seen in smaller communities where like they changed even the chemical balance, pH levels, and make things pretty dangerous. I don't know. It's terrifying.
It is. But again, take those initial steps. Don't try to drink the ocean. There are solutions out there. I think that's the big thing because we do want to be somewhat scared by these things, but also understand there's a lot of solutions in place too.
No, that was my other takeaway, Andy, was that industrial operators got to treat these as like core risks, right? Not rare exceptions. The consequences aren't just financial. They're operational, reputational, potentially physical.
For sure. I had kind of a glass half full reaction to this too, oddly enough. Just there must be some company out there who, despite all the things we've talked about ransomware ad nauseum, just still hasn't taken these initial steps that you talked about. Maybe the threat of this burning the whole thing down type of attack is enough to kind of push them more toward taking those steps. So
right, just lean back and like shout at everyone in the cube farm, change your password.
Yep.
My God.
Yeah, it's other stuff too. Back up your data, things like that. There's also things they call segmentation strategies where basically it's a hard stop, if you will, in terms of you can't worm your way through a network. All of these things can be put in place. It's all about time and resources. So the next time, somebody comes to you as cybersecurity training or cybersecurity investment, let's listen.
Well, what I was encouraged by, not necessarily this story and the, odd existential threat of everything just being erased, was that we had 2 cybersecurity stories in our top 5 this week.
Yeah.
Which means that, people are listening, people are understanding, and the industry is looking for answers. All right. Our next most popular story this week. GM's futuristic Corvette opens like a fighter jet. GM recently unveiled a pair of futuristic Corvette concepts, the CX and the CXR Vision Gran Turismo. The novel designs aren't production vehicles, but they serve as inspiration that informs Corvette's design language. While it has many of the Corvette hallmarks, the CX also has a fighter jet-inspired cockpit canopy designed in collaboration with the GM Motorsports Aero Group. If it's hard to imagine like a fighter jet canopy, it also looks like when you open up like a can of wet cat food. Just almost the same. Almost the same.
Totally. That is definitely where they got their inspiration from.
And you can hear it like that. Anyway, the CX concept is an all-wheel drive electric supercar with a propulsion system that includes 4 motors, one powering each wheel, generating more than 2,000 horsepower. The CXR VGT is a hybrid, a twin-turbo V8 that generates up to 900 horsepower and 15,000 RPM, driving the rear wheels, and then 3 electric motors, one in each front wheel, and a third integrated into an 8-speed gearbox, providing instant torque and that all contribute to a total system output of 2,000 horsepower. The project is the latest and last of several Corvette concepts to be revealed this year. The CX concept, this one in particular, came out of the Chevrolet Performance Studio in Warren, Michigan. Now, this was part of GM's design exercise across multiple studios that empowers the company's designers to step away from the constraints of production vehicles and unleash their creativity. So, Andy, if you could change one thing about any car, what would it be?
I didn't realize you were going to have me put on my automotive engineer hat.
Okay.
Until like you started reading this introduction. So I tried to jot something down here. My first thought was just to make it zero emission, just as an altruistic angle.
Yeah.
Then I thought I should get a stick shift again.
Oh, yeah.
Which I really miss.
Mm-hmm.
But what I actually want is just a holder for my sunglasses in the roof. I used to have one, and now I don't.
No, that was. And how about that? It fits sunglasses.
Yeah.
Like we had one. We have one in the RAV. It fits Carrie's sunglasses, maybe the kids. I mean, not mine. Like not the clunky things I got to throw on my face.
Yeah.
It just it just won't shut.
I miss it. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, hey, sometimes it's the small asks.
Yeah.
No,
it's good to let your designers kind of run wild from time to time. They don't have to worry about things. Just throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, because that could turn into something else and whatever. This, to me, it's cool looking, but me just being me thought it would be so much faster and easier to just open and shut a car door.
Yeah. I don't think this is for people that are looking to get in and out of a car faster. It's for people
100%.
that are going to pull in front of the biggest crowd and be like, watch this.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then I'm trying to be less like that guy.
Yeah.
So I thought, everyone got on board with the hit a button and your trunk opens and closes. So that's kind of feels like that operates at kind of the same speed as this thing. So maybe in the future when they throw one of these on the Corvette, maybe people will be on board.
Maybe like maybe fix some of the already well-intentioned features, like where you're supposed to be able to kick underneath the side, and it's supposed to open the door, and it never works.
Yeah,
not once, to my knowledge. I hear, anyways. Jeff, do you think this is? What do you think is more likely to inform future Corvette designs? This canopy top, or the story that we covered a few months ago when they 3D printed the entire Corvette chassis?
Yeah, I mean the way that you access this vehicle or get out of it, it's a cool design feature. It's just meant to sort of expand your mind in terms of what the capabilities can be from a more practical sense, which is where I tend to lean. The 3D printing, without a doubt. When you talk about lightweight materials, more durable, almost taking a sort of like unibody approach, if you will, or when it comes to replacing parts. I think we've talked about that before. So I think that's the one that has more of a future. But I mean, again, this is supposed to just get your mind going. Yeah. What else is possible? What can we do? Yeah. This was our thing that leads to the thing story, without a doubt.
That's right.
In terms of what it can do. And more so than the way you get in and out of the vehicle with the way the top pops open, or the cockpit, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was looking at stuff like how they put it is a hybrid. That was one of the first things that jumped out at me. It feels like GM is sort of, read the writing on the wall and said the whole fully electric vehicle, even in a concept, is just not what people are looking for right now.
Yeah.
It's not going to get the type of attention that we're looking for. So let's make it a hybrid. We can really soup up the horsepower and really get some headlines that way and get some more attention. So I think that's sort of interesting from a concept perspective, because for many, many years, everything was all electric. Mm-hmm. That's what we saw with these concept vehicles, even the supercars like this. I think what was also interesting when they talk about the motors being on the wheels. Mm-hmm. Now, it's 3 motors for the 4 wheels. I think the back wheels have a shared motor, if
for
you
the
will.
for the CXR, that's a hybrid. The other one's completely electric.
Okay, so for having the motors at the wheels, I think is also very interesting in terms of generating different ideas for more horsepower, more power. How does that affect range long term? Because I think when you look at bigger vehicles, when we look at potentially electric or hybrid semis or delivery trucks, very interesting to put that at the wheels in terms of giving them the torque that they need for bigger loads. Because these are already, if you're looking at electric or even a hybrid, they're heavier than a traditional vehicle because of the battery placements. So kind of interesting, some engineering things there. Also, just the lower ground clearance, definitely a different way to go than everything we're seeing with even sedans that are being put out right now, but definitely all the SUVs. That's a bigger deal. Yeah. It'd be a bigger deal around here too, especially when you're talking about, not that you're going to be driving your supercar or Corvette in January in Wisconsin, but that ground clearance and being so tight, definitely kind of a little bit of a throwback, I think.
Well, and it's only 41 inches tall. Like, I mean, you have to, my youngest son is taller than that. So I had to, while he was standing there, I'm just like, that is down there. That is down there, getting into that one. And I mean, John Texera, who has got to be our oldest listener because he's from 1586, according to his handle. He understands the practical challenges as well. He wants to make sure that you can, open it in your garage.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. But I mean, when you think about it, I mean, if you're really trying to open your mind into what a car could become one day, think about how as we approach cars and you get the beacon of light that shines, the badge, stuff like that as you walk. What if as you were walking to your car, you just walked into your car and it formed around you, straight up Iron Man suit?
I don't know about that one.
Way in the future, not tomorrow.
That'll be the next Corvette design challenge.
Hey, just let's get the studios on it. All right.
Well, bouncing off of what Andy was talking about in terms of if you could change one thing after playing around, bought a boat to go fishing, backing that thing up, and just the way everything grinds to a halt at the dock because of me trying to back up a boat and trailer. Yeah. If I could just have something where the whole receiver comes off the back bumper and I could just sort of manually guide the trailer down there and then reattach it to my vehicle. Yeah. As opposed to having to back the trailer up. That would be amazing.
What if it was just a button that just said launch this boat? And it knew that it had a boat on there and it would,
wasn't Ford or somebody working on that? Didn't we cover that?
That does sound familiar.
It does.
I've been very fortunate. People have been very patient with me at the boat launch because they don't have to be.
It only gets easier.
Man.
You're just at the beginning of this journey.
It is.
Just put one of those student driver stickers on there.
Yeah. I am that guy right now.
I thought it was really cool that you can actually, these cars will be loaded into the new Gran Turismo 7. I thought it was really interesting that Chevy's engineers and the Corvette design team actually sent detailed blueprints to the company that makes this video game. So that way you can kind of play it to spec. And, I'm not a gearhead, but I had no idea the impact that this game series had on, producer Eric and other people that, grew up wanting to, try and experiment different things with cars. And this, game provided a platform for them. And it's I'd be interested to know how many engineers and product designers out there started because they could start tinkering in a video game environment. All right. Our next most popular story, the other cybersecurity entry into this episode, how AI attacks disrupt manufacturing and what companies can do to prevent them. Jeremy Gottschalk is the founder and CEO of Marketplace Risk, and he's also the author of Bulletproof Your Marketplace, Strategies for Protecting Your Digital Platform. In a recent article on IEN.com, he said, AI has many positive applications, but we often hear about the negative side effects. Bad people leveraging AI tools for nefarious purposes. There are numerous examples of manufacturing companies being adversely impacted by AI-powered attacks. For example, email attacks are surging in manufacturing, and that's bad. IBM says manufacturing is at the top of the list of industries facing cyber attacks for the fourth consecutive year. Gottschalk says cyber criminals are way ahead of the good guys, and while he doesn't think we can stop them completely, companies can certainly improve their ability to detect threats and avoid being victimized. We've gotten to the point where some AI tools are being developed specifically for committing fraud, such as breaking passwords, creating AI-generated voice and video deepfakes that impersonate your boss, your suppliers, your clients, using AI to analyze your network patterns and identify critical system weak points for attack, and even using it to analyze supply chain data and identifying the most vulnerable links. So, what do we do to diffuse these AI-powered threats? Well, we can use AI-augmented fraud detection tools, identity verification protocols, and simple cybersecurity training with AI awareness. Most people just don't even know that these are possible yet. Jeff, understanding that all of these tools exist, is it most important for manufacturers to just build upon a base of knowledge and simply know more about the types of threats they face?
You know, it's interesting. You worked the word simply in there. I wouldn't say it's a simple process, but yes.
Or I think
at the core.
I think that's like a simple starting point, right? Like just training.
Exactly. And I think the hard part is, just like for any of us, when it comes to a lot of training, it can't be just check the box type stuff.
Yeah.
It needs to be things where you really engage people so that they understand they play a very critical role in cybersecurity for the entire company. And sometimes we're looking at global. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can get into one person's network access, you can worm your way into a lot of different things. And now with IT and OT being more closely ingrained through ERP systems, there have been plenty of examples with manufacturers where someone entered through the billing software, if you will. The proper segmentation we were talking about before was not set up. So from there, they could get into factory, supply chain, and just weave their way in through a lot of different things. And one of the areas that we're learning a lot about where AI is helping the hackers is on the supply chain side. Because if they can get into your network and you're working with Andy in some way, shape, or form in your supply chain, then you can jump over and get into his network as well.
Yeah.
Because all of these things are more connected for all those wonderful production efficiencies we want to realize. So it is training at its core. It's also understanding your environment. What we talked about before, that simple inventory management type of approach to your digital assets. So it's a lot of these things coming into play of, let's not just villainize AI, because the good guys are using it as well. There has been leaps and bounds. And although the author is 100% accurate and that the good guys are ahead of us, that gap is steadily narrowing. The bad guys are definitely ahead of us. That gap is narrowing. We're coming a lot closer. And some of that has to be attributed to better training, employees being more aware, employees understanding their role, also not playing the shame and blame game where you clicked on a link. What did you do that for? You're wrong. It's more like, okay, here's why you shouldn't have clicked on that link. And here's why everybody else shouldn't be. Well, it sounds sort of altruistic, but yes, that is the absolute approach we need to take, especially when it comes to a lot of the social engineering campaigns, the phishing campaigns. That's where the bad guys are using AI the most in making those types of approaches more successful. We're also implementing AI in a lot of ways to say, we know the bad guys are going to use AI to do this, so let's anticipate that through our own AI to try to shut that down.
Yeah.
So again, understanding the environment, training your people, we will get there. Let's not villainize AI completely. Understand it's a tool for us as well, on the good guy side.
Before this came out, I got to say that this is one that worried me because, I mean, you guys, in terms of like there being a sample size out there of our voice, like, I mean, there are plenty of, there's plenty of stuff to build a model off of. And so I have thought about this before where I was just talking about it with my friend where I was just like, oh, actually, yeah, I feel like there is quite a library of our voices out there because, I mean, think about it. Whenever our boss goes to travels, it seems like there's something vulnerable on his phone, right? And we always get that text like, "Hey man, how you doing? Hey, could you send me that one thing?" And then all of a sudden it's just like, "Oh, and your social security number." It's like it takes a little bit to realize it's not actually him, but we're getting to the point where we might get a phone call and it's his voice saying like, "Hey, no big deal, but could you provide all the passwords to all the things that we have on file just in case?" I don't know. That is wild to me that exists, and it's only going to get smarter.
It is 100% agree. So is the defensive software, and there are tools out there that can help identify that. There's also simple things you can do like passwords. On these calls saying, what's the password? Kind of like when I was in the Army when we had challenge and password type of stuff. So just
like. Hey, how's it going, Tom? Eagle 14. Anyway, I don't know. What would your password be? No.
Well, we did simple. It was always the challenge would be like Green Bay, and then you would have to say Packers.
Oh, okay.
And you could pass.
That should have come to me faster. Andy, when you were looking at this story, I mean, Are you surprised by the uptick in popularity for these sorts of cybersecurity articles on the sites?
No, I mean, these are real threats, and it is good, like you mentioned, that people are taking this seriously. This is another one like the one we talked about before, where if ransomware for some reason wasn't enough to spur you to action, the thought that someone at your company might call you using their own voice, or someone else would call using their own voice to get vulnerable information, I mean, that could spur you to action too, and that's all good stuff. I don't want to overly demonize AI. And there's no point in relitigating this stuff at this point, but just as we move farther down the AI highway, for lack of a better term, might be worth considering smarter ways to roll it up. Maybe just a thought, because the fact that the nefarious actors are so much farther ahead, maybe thinks it wasn't properly cooked before it came out.
The only way to introduce the fifth industrial revolution, or whichever one we're on, is all gas, no brakes, Andy.
Yep.
That's the way we got to do it. Well, so you do a lot of coverage in the supply chain industry. So we always talk on the podcast in particular, like checking out your supply chain to see if there are any vulnerabilities there. I think that, it really makes sense. One of the points that he mentioned was vendor and supply chain vetting. While you're making sure that your suppliers can still provide you inventory, I mean, part of that conversation has got to be like, oh, also, do you have security protocols in place? I think that's got to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, for everyone, from manufacturers, suppliers, distributors. I mean, that's all. These companies are all interconnected, so they're all vulnerable through each other. That's a huge part of this.
Well, and Jeff, it just comes down to requiring your partners to be in compliance with industrial cybersecurity frameworks.
Absolutely. And it's not an easy conversation to have initially, but it's one that needs to start happening more frequently, as you've been talking about. Just had a guest on the podcast. We were talking specifically about supply chains and really phrasing it, because when you talk about cybersecurity, everybody gets freaked out. They don't want to deal with it, but talking about it more from a change management perspective. This is a new procedure that we need to put in place. And I think that can help the overall mindset when you're dealing with some of these issues, talking to them in their own terms a little bit, because it does fit. I mean, it flows into all these things, and it is a change.
Yeah. No, that's, you got to know the like C-suite buzzwords and jargon, just like cyber. Oh, with the cyber, we bought it. Okay. Yeah, but this is for change management. Oh,
exactly.
You have my ear.
There you go.
Oh, God. Dystopian. No. All right. Our most popular story this week. Xiaomi factory rolls out a new car every 76 seconds. A new video offers a close look at Xiaomi's electric vehicle factory in Beijing, where a new car, you may have heard this, rolls off the production line every 76 seconds on average. With more than 700 robots working in sync, the factory achieves 100% automation in key production processes like mega casting, stamping, and final assembly. In the body assembly workshop, 8 robot assemblers work in perfect synchronization with assembly accuracy of 0.5 millimeters. Their XI quality check system captures 28 high-resolution images in 84 seconds and can identify defects in 1 second with 99.9% accuracy. In this factory, a high degree of automation and intelligence has become the key driver behind its development of new quality productive forces. Jeff, Xiaomi gets the sizzle. They understand that, but do you think they're getting the steak as well?
Well, they're getting some steak. I think we can talk about the quality of said steak here in a minute. They're definitely getting some steak. There are 3 things that jumped out at me when we look at this factory. First of all, incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. So impressive. And I think it also illustrates that when you're looking at our difficulty in luring in more younger people into manufacturing, look at the amount of programming, just code that would have been needed to make all of this function this flawlessly. I mean, down to split seconds with all the timing being correctly, the inventory fulfillment on the actual in the work cells, all of those things is incredible. So yeah, manufacturing needs programmers and this type of high-tech skill set. So that was interesting. The other thing is we've got a lot of connected technology. We've talked about cybersecurity quite a bit here on this episode of the podcast, so reinforces the need for that as well. I don't think I need to belabor that point. I think the biggest one, though, and we've talked about this a lot, whenever you're introducing more automation and fewer people, there's got to be quality concerns. Okay. And that was the first thing that jumped out at me. And it just happened to coincide with the fact that the SU7 sedan, which is made at this facility, recently received the lowest quality rating among large electric sedans in China in Q1 of this year.
Okay.
So they've got a lot of stuff that people were not real happy about, and it was all over the place, from the airbags to the finish. Paint was peeling off. There was issues with a lot of the electronics, door locks, things like that. So not necessarily
tuning.
not like engines falling out of cars or anything here,
Yeah.
but definitely things that were making it less desirable to drive and operate, which is a big deal because their biggest competitor right now is Tesla.
Yeah.
The vehicles that they're rolling out, especially this mid-size sedan, or this large sedan, runs about $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 less than Tesla's Model 3. So when you are competing with another big entity like that on a price point, essentially, the quality needs to be there. And right now, at least in this instance, they are definitely struggling with that.
Yeah.
So, maybe put one out every, 3 minutes and try to, make sure the door locks work.
I mean, I don't know. I think this is the closest I've ever seen to true lights out manufacturing. And if they can make that work, I mean, like reliably, it's a real game changer. Like I thought it was incredible. And I mean, the one thing for me, Andy, is also how Xiaomi redid the story about how their tour of their facility is incredibly popular. Mm-hmm. And I just really understand that now.
Yeah. This is going back years and years and years when I was at a different job covering a different beat, but there was this perception that American manufacturing jobs went overseas. And some of them did, to be sure, but mostly they were just lost to technology. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just became more efficient, and a lot of them were ultimately automated. So this is not something new, but and these quality issues that you mentioned, notwithstanding, which they're not nothing, mm-hmm. but this kind of technology is only going to get better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, the stakeholders in the auto industry, both mainly in the West, that are going to be competing at some level with these companies, they're going to have to reckon with this. Mm-hmm. As far as what this 100% automation in key processes looks like and it's not saying no to it. That's not an option. So you got to figure out what this looks like. And it's not something that they've handled super well or that we as a society have handled super well either. So maybe just... This is more of a darker turn than the cybersecurity ones, which is weird.
Well, I mean,
but some hard discussions need to be had on this.
I think it's fair because, Jeff, you've brought this point up before too, right? When we're talking about reshoring, when we're talking about a manufacturing coming back to the United States, we should look at this video and be like, this is the kind of manufacturing that's coming back that's going to make it possible.
Potentially. And I think the one thing that we have to keep in mind with this is a very unique, desirable cookie cutter approach to this product.
Yeah.
Now, 300,000 vehicles, I think, is what they target for an annual production level. There's not a lot of vehicle types where you sell 300,000 of them, or that you would just line up and run 300,000 of one thing. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's unique here as well. When you look, especially at automotive production, people want it more customized. It's going to last longer. So how does this scale overall? I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. So I don't think it's as concerning maybe from a job perspective. And I think it also illustrates the fact that there does need to be a little bit of human element involved with customization, because that's another big trend in manufacturing right now. Everybody wants it a little bit different. Yeah. Product life cycles are 6 to 8 months at the most right now before we need to come out with the next generation. So there's a lot to take away here. I don't want to just poo-poo what they're doing or say that this isn't going to fit and everything. There's elements of it that will, and it'll definitely have an impact bigger picture, longer term, but not exactly, I guess.
You're just saying, show me. No, it's...
Wow.
Yep, did it. This really reminds me of the conversations that I had with specifically real-time robotics at Automate in Detroit, especially when we talk about using AI to more or less replace integrators, right? Because when you talk about that customization, their AI basically runs the job you want to run with all the equipment you want to run it, and then it gives you, it's kind of like a GPS, right? Like it gives you the initial way to get there, but then it continues running to try and find you the best actual path to get to your destination. And so when you're talking about programming these lights out lines for big runs like 300,000, it can do that, and it will continue to refine and learn based on how things run. But when you talk about a customization, just like, hey, we want a different paint color. Hey, we want locks that work. We want tires. Like these are variables that you can kind of add and then integrate into the process, when you essentially do like a changeover. Yeah. And I think that it's going to be an increasingly powerful tool. And really, a lot of those conversations we had is that we're just kind of scratching the surface. For as much as we've been talking about
I'd agree.
Absolute automation, we really haven't realized it yet in terms of like even investing in it in the United States. And so I think, this is the path we are headed towards as an industry. And we need to reconcile that and figure out how it's going to work for everybody.
Yeah, and even if you don't get to 100%, even if you get to 99, I mean, that's still a huge change compared to where we are now. So it's just dealing with it rather than not really, which is what happened before.
Well, and a lot of like preventative and predictive maintenance to make sure like all of this is working as it's supposed to. While it is a beautiful, fully automated line that's all working, like things are going to break down. I mean, cameras are one of those 84 cameras are going to stop working, and you're going to need to fix it. So like you're going to need manufacturing staffs that will probably use AI tools to monitor what might be breaking down. I don't know. Things changing.
For sure.
But if anything, it's kind of funny. Like they make a car in 76 seconds, but they needed like a 3.5 minute video to show it off. But yeah, take 3.5 minutes. Watch this video if you haven't already, because it's incredible. All right. Before we jump into, in case you missed it, stories maybe not as popular, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. We have another word from our sponsor, Hexagon. This week's episode brought to you by Hexagon. Quickly addressing and eliminating known problems in your facility can save you from a damaged reputation, fines, or even an unplanned shutdown. One of the most effective ways to resolve an issue is by identifying its root cause, which is achieved by conducting a root cause analysis. However, it's essential to note that a root cause analysis done incorrectly can waste considerable time and resources. Well, a new paper from Hexagon, 6 mistakes manufacturers make when trying to fix an issue, gives you 6 common yet critical mistakes you should avoid. So download it right now. There is a link to it in the body copy as well as the live chat in case you missed it. Stories not as popular on the website, still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. Andy, what do you have for us this week?
Earlier this week, a pair of U.S. senators, Tammy Duckworth of Illinois and Andy Kim of New Jersey, went to Japan and South Korea. And while they were there, they were supposed to meet with some of those companies' major shipbuilders to what they say is try to bring, among other things, try and bring more business to U.S. shipyards. South Korea is the second largest global commercial shipbuilder. Japan is number 3, and they are both far, far behind China. The U.S. accounts for 0.1% of that segment. These talks in particular were defense-focused, obviously with the dynamics in that region shifting quickly. So they were talking about auxiliary vessels, which are used to refuel and transport cargo for the Navy. They want to discuss potential joint ventures with these companies to possibly build or repair those vessels in that area, in that part of the world. But they also noted that a couple of the South Korean companies were already in talks about building ships in the U.S. as well. Hanwha Group, I believe, acquired a Philadelphia shipyard that builds merchant mariners last year. So this is a segment that has both economic and national security implications, and haven't gotten any of the follow-up on how those talks went, but might get some joint ventures to build up the domestic shipbuilding industry here in a little bit.
I like that this introduced me to yet another term, make American shipbuilding great again.
Yeah.
It plays everywhere. Mm-hmm. Anything. Jeff, in our pursuit to make American shipbuilding great again, how do you feel, these types of deals might help us out?
Well, I mean, not to totally waffle on this, but it depends. Because the types of ships that we're looking at here, I understand it's more of defense based, but we've got some, right up in, Door County here in Wisconsin, we've got some pretty strong shipbuilding companies. So if if we're looking at this purely from a production standpoint, obviously there's some concerns that would come into play there. If we're looking at this from a technology perspective and how to actually make our shipbuilding better and sort of trade secrets that we can learn from, I think that's great. You just hate to put all eggs in any one basket here, so to speak, in terms of trying to leverage specifically these countries and what they've been doing, because there's a reason a lot of the ships are being made there. There's a cost element to it. There's a labor element to it. So how do you work through all of those things as well in terms of getting where you want to be? And where do people like Lockheed come into this? Where does BAE Systems come in terms of their thoughts as well and working with some of these foreign suppliers? So there's a lot of moving pieces here. I think it will be interesting to see what they actually take away from this. If it's just purely a manufacturing production perspective, if it's more IP focused, if it's getting access to different materials, whatever the case may be. Yeah. We'll have to see how it plays out, because I think it really depends.
Is it a difficult argument to make when we're becoming more isolationist to reach out to some of these countries and say, hey, but when it comes to making ships, we're looking for joint ventures?
It's interesting that, and the article mentions it too, that some of these talks about bringing some shipbuilding over here were part of the talks with the tariff negotiations with South Korea, such as they were. So,
okay.
Yeah, you could go back and forth on how those have been. It's a little unusual to have these diplomatic efforts alongside the threatening letters that have been also sent over their way.
Fair. All right. Interesting landscape. Oh, the times we live in. Jeff, what is in case you missed it this week?
So I picked an article. It was dubbed "Republicans Look to Make a U-Turn on Federal Commitment to Electric Vehicles for Postal Service." So basically, if you remember, finally, after many, many years, the post office was going to finally get some new vehicles for their postal carriers. They're talking about these ancient vehicles that they were running. They were running out of parts for them. They're extremely expensive to service and maintain. So they made the move. They contracted with Oshkosh to get a lot of these electric mail delivery vehicles.
Yeah.
Everybody was really happy until now.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of Republican senators, one from Iowa, another from Texas, who surprisingly think we should either be running on ethanol-based vehicles or, traditional gas-based vehicles. Imagine that.
From Iowa, eh?
From Iowa and Texas. Now, I'm not here to advocate or push for any type of vehicle. Whatever these guys want, whatever the letter carriers want, that's what we should get them.
Yeah.
This is what they picked.
Yeah.
This is where the money has been allocated. Everybody involved is happy with this, except some of these senators who have their own political initiatives, their own agendas. They're coming out and saying, well, the stuff isn't being delivered quickly enough because there's only been, I think, like 300 or something like that, 300 battery-powered vehicles and 1,000 gas-powered vehicles have been delivered. This was intentional. They wanted to actually scale the rollout so in case something goes sideways, they can adjust.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense to me when you're talking about a total of like 85,000 vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you take your time and do that right. Now, that's over a course of like 20 years, but still. It bothers me, again, when you have all the stakeholders involved, make a decision, and then somebody wants to go in and backtrack. It's like there were some wrongs that they just feel have to be righted here, even though nobody's complaining.
Yeah.
It bothers me because, again, this is something that's been necessary. It's a key part of our infrastructure. Amazon doesn't deliver everything yet. Okay.
Yeah.
We still do need mail carriers. And these folks do deserve to have stuff like, I don't know, heating and air conditioning.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Plus, when you go back and you try to readjust all of these contracts, you're going to end up spending more than one was actually initially allocated. Well, so until something actually does go sideways, why don't we try to fix the stuff that is broke and not waste time on things where everybody seems pretty happy about how it's progressing?
Well, I don't know. It seems like we're taking a couple of pages out of the traditional playbook with this boondoggle.
Boondoggle.
It's a boondoggle. And Andy, it's a textbook example of waste.
So much of our politics feels fueled by the idea of just pulling one over. on your perceived enemies, and it's just exhausting. It really is. I mean, this isn't even the first time they've gone after this program. I think I'd have to look at the article again, but they tried to do it in the big spending bill, or spend spending cuts bill, and the Senate parliamentarian, something like that, said, no, you can't do that. So now they're at it again. It's just exhausting. Like, it's
politics. And what's frustrating when you look at this from, we look at this part of the program, the podcast, in terms of what does this mean going forward?
Yeah.
Is this what's going to happen with every single government contract, that a couple of senators then come in and say, no, I want to quantum leap this thing and go back in time and totally shift this because we need to right this wrong?
Yeah.
Just the stuff that's woke.
Yeah. Well, I think the answer to that, Jeff, is yes. Yes, they do. They are willing to do that because, whether or not they do, there is some sort of personal agenda or political agenda. I think everything is ripe for the picking. Like, including something as simple as, newer upgraded vehicles for postal workers. Because it was like a running joke, some of the equipment that they were using to still deliver the mail.
Well, and you've got a lot of really smart people here who have studied all of these trends who are saying electric vehicles make a lot of sense because of all the stops and starts, because of the carbon emissions.
The kicker quote in this article is an all-timer. Just, what does he say? It's the perfect application for an electric vehicle and a particularly inefficient one for an internal combustion engine one.
This is a smart guy. This is a professor. This is like what he does, man. And yet we got these senators who are calling this into question and calling a lot of things into question. I don't know how we make America great again by looking back. If we're going to make this country, if you want to do these things and improve, let's move forward. Let's not worry about killing the Chemical Safety Board and a bunch of other stuff. Let's move ahead.
Yeah. It's okay to admit some things make sense. It's okay. It's not a loss. You know what? Some might see it as moving forward.
I know.
All right. Mine, in case you missed it this week, was about Harvard and a team at Harvard building this wearable robot that is helping stroke and ALS patients use their arms. So bioengineers at Harvard have created the soft wearable robot that looks kind of like a smart jacket, and it's designed to help these patients with neurodegenerative diseases or suffering from a stroke, help them regain a little bit of normalcy. The jacket uses sensors, machine learning, and a physics-based model to learn each patient's unique movements to help them accomplish daily activities, brushing their teeth, taking a drink of water, combing their hair. The vest is outfitted with various sensors as well as a balloon that attaches underneath the arm. This balloon inflates and deflates to provide mechanical assistance to weak or otherwise impaired limbs. Until now, the challenge in creating similar assistive devices has been that no two patients really move in exactly the same way, but that's where machine learning comes into play and can now offer personalized care. Just learning off of an individual's movements and improving going forward. The end game is to have these personalized robots not only help perform daily activities, but also regain muscle strength. I chose this story because I thought it was an incredible step forward for people that, really struggle with something as simple as eating and drinking, and really show how when we look at machine learning, when we look at AI, it's not always that under that negative lens that a lot of people see. But if you could train these jackets to learn from each individual patient and help them live a better life day to day, continue to improve that, I just think that this is an incredible project. And we need to see more of this, especially coming out of academia. I don't know. This is research for good. This is helping people. And I think it's an incredible application. Andy, I don't know if you had a chance to check this out, but what'd you think?
I did right before we came on the air. I think everybody in here probably knows someone who's dealt with a stroke and how difficult that can be. So obviously this has so many applications there, and I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but this must have so many more applications beyond that, this kind of technology to, regrow muscle strength. I can't even imagine what potential technologies could be out there stemming from that. So it's like you said, this is why we fund the National Science Foundation.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. Talk about helping everybody. Yeah. Jeff, this has to be another candidate for a thing to lead to subsequent things. But right now we're just talking about the upper body. We've talked about exoskeletons being able to give people, additional capabilities or regain old capabilities. And now not only are we going to be able to do that, but they're going to be able to learn each individual needs and help them going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the thing that was led to by the other things. I mean, I think it's what it created, because that's where I went to with the exoskeletons. And those in the past, they're very metallic, they're clunky, they're big. Whereas this, you're looking at something that's much more personalized and more
soft fabric.
Yeah, so it's more in your comfort zone, so to speak.
Yeah,
and not so mechanical. So much easier to use, easier to maintain, probably a little bit less expensive, I would think too.
Yeah.
Then you start plugging in AI again with all of these bad things that Andy brought up that it can be used for. Here we got something good.
Yeah.
And we're using machine learning, which obviously has been involved in manufacturing in the industrial sector for decades. So to be able to optimize that, bring it into other areas, along with a more advanced sort of package, I guess you could say. No, it's amazing. It's incredible to see how we're helping a lot of these physical disabilities with really technologies we've had for a while.
Well, and you think about people with ALS and who have had strokes, obvious need there. But when we look at people that need physical therapy, right? Physical therapy, you throw on a suit like this, you let the suit know your goals. Maybe you wouldn't even know what your goals are, but they could see where you currently are, try to get where you're going forward. I mean, and then even the next step would be athletics, right? I mean, wearing these suits as any sort of athlete in terms of improving, knowing where your body might be vulnerable when you don't, and things that you need to work on in order to get better at a certain skill set. I don't know. I think that this is headed down an incredible path, and hopefully, it isn't politicized and all of a sudden shut down. All right. Now, before we get out of here, let's do our final thoughts. Andy, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. It was good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Yeah, thanks, guys. You guys will be back at full strength after a few weeks next week, right?
Yeah, that's the plan. That is the plan. It's always up until that red light comes on.
Right.
That's the plan. What's your final thought?
This will probably lay bare my deeply suburban upbringing, but I'm going to a tractor pull, not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Good stuff.
I do believe that'll be the first time I've been to one of those, so I'm excited.
You've never been to one?
I don't think so.
Oh, man. Is it like the souped up ones?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm showing up a little later in the day, so I hope they're still going when I get there, but I will report back.
There are two levels of tractor pull. Like I've seen the normal tractors.
Mm-hmm. I suspect that's what we're dealing with, but I don't know.
Oh, man, but then you got those souped up things that are just monsters. It's essentially a monster truck that they call a tractor, and it's incredible.
All right.
Either way, you're in
the
for a
antique
treat.
ones are cool, too.
There you go.
No, that's the one I'm accustomed. I'm going to an antique tractor pull in a few weeks, and that one's a little bit more slow moving.
Do you think everybody knows what a tractor pull is?
I mean, I hope that they can understand that.
It feels self-explanatory.
Yeah, that to pull things with a tractor and see who can pull the most.
Okay. Well, I don't think Andy is from Wisconsin. He's never been to one.
I don't think everyone necessarily knows it, but there's no point in restating the obvious just to hammer the point home. That's okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't, check it out. Like, oh man, do you think there are people that don't know what a tractor pull is?
1,000%.
Oh man, that's a bummer. Okay. Maybe with the growth of agri-hoods, we will see more tractor pulls.
That'd be incredible, actually.
Yeah. Tractor pulls in your agri-hood. All right. My final thought this week was just, last Friday as I was headed home, getting ready to settle into a nice relaxing weekend with no plans whatsoever. All of a sudden, I blew up a tire on the interstate, just exploded that thing. And it was great because, it was during rush hour, which made things a lot easier to navigate. But I was able to get to the side of the road. And, I like to think that that's like one of the few things that I can still do is no matter what, I can change a tire. But man, just it's been a minute. It's probably been like 5 or 6 years since I've had to change a tire. And I just, I think it's good that maybe go into your car and take inventory of where everything is, because I had no problem. I just moved the mountains of stuff. I think I keep a fairly well organized car, but man, when you got to move everything out of the back seat, it's just like all the softball bags and all the blankets, and it took some doing. But then I get it up, I find the tire, I find the jack, and I could not for the life of me find the tire iron. And then I immediately start to panic, and I'm just like, I'm calling coworkers that are headed in the same direction. I'm like, where are you? You're already too far. And it was just it was oddly placed. The jack was front and center, tire front and center. tire iron buried in the back, but whatever, behind the tire. Found it, was able to change the tire, no problem. I would like to also say that, if you're on the interstate, maybe pay attention to those people in the shoulder, because had a close one, had a near miss, but, it was just, things went smoothly. They could have gone a little bit smoother, but also it made me think our new car doesn't even have, like a donut, doesn't have a tire. It just comes with a repair kit, and I'm not cool with that, so we're definitely buying a donut and putting that in there, just getting the entire repair kit. But final thought, take inventory of what you have in your car, so that way when it comes to a time that you need to change a tire, it goes a little bit quicker.
Maybe give people a couple of feet if you're driving past them too.
Give people a couple of feet.
Couple of
also,
yards.
If for whatever reason you're involved in any sort of community infrastructure, I don't know what it would be, but like we need to clean these streets a little bit more, because it was almost impossible for me to kneel down to change it. I had to take the mat out to put it down, because there was like just a host of like rocks and glass, and I'm just like, no wonder I punctured this tire. Like it looked like I was on a gravel road made of rubbish.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jeff, your final thought this week.
The other thought too is when you buy that vehicle, just get the warranty with roadside assistance.
I mean,
Yeah, but then you can't change a tire at rush hour on 94.
yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I was out for, we were trying to, it was my kid's last day at camp, and there was a cookout, and I had left early to make sure that I was going to get there on time. And I will say, we still made it on time.
All right.
Good
for you.
But, fine. Do that thing too. Way more fun and way safer. What are you going to do? Just sit in the car and color with your kid while someone comes to do it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's me. That's me.
Really? How much is that?
It's all part of the warranty.
Yeah.
Work it into the monthly
I wonder
payment.
if I even have that in my insurance. Probably
It's
do.
not insurance. It would
We've
be
talked
some-
about this before. How most cars don't have the donut these days, because that's
Yeah.
all people are doing.
Yeah. Just call the guy.
No.
You're better than all of us, David. Clearly.
You
Yeah.
could have walked to the dealership from where I think you were.
No.
Oh,
It
too
would've
far.
been- it was no, well, it was like right at the beginning, right when you get on. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
could have made it.
That's a haul. Never
Yeah.
mind.
I had no idea. I guess as soon as it happened, I got in need to change the tire mode. But all right, I will. I'll
I mean, your
investigate.
call.
Yep,
Whatever works.
It's not going to get any easier over the years.
No.
What's your final thought, Jeff?
Well, I've transitioned, as I've talked about here in the office a little bit, from the guy who knows the guy with the boat to the guy with the boat.
Oh yeah,
And going fishing this last weekend, it was definitely different preparing.
yeah.
Because you have to make sure, like I had to make sure I had a spare tire and a tire iron and a jack and charge the batteries and make sure, there's lubes on the hubs for the trailer and the lower unit oil lube and all of these things that you just never think about.
Yeah.
Then when it becomes yours, you definitely have to. So it added another element and actually made it much more rewarding to finally get that boat in the water.
Yeah.
So it was interesting though.
Well, I will say, make sure you have a paddle in it, just in case, because we recently got not a new to us boat, and even though there are 2 batteries on that boat, I'll just say someone in my circle took it out on the water, killed them both dead, just listening to music all day. It even has the feature where you switch it to one battery instead of running both batteries at the same time, so you can kill one and then restart it with the second one. To which he did reply, "Hey, mistakes were made." But
All right.
they're out in the middle of the lake. They had
That
no
takes
way.
some work though. If they were they charging them at night?
Oh no! Well, I mean, it's you don't need to charge them. You just run it. Well, I mean, no, the battery's recharged as long as you run it or whatever. But they just ran it dead in the middle of the lake. Seriously.
Okay.
And, that's I think how the system is designed. But so they didn't have a paddle. How would you get back?
I mean, I'd probably
Call
try
a
to
guy.
flag somebody down and
Yeah.
tow rope.
Yeah.
So they're the only ones on the lake. No one's trusting anybody to swim to go and get our other boat and try to drag them in. So some of them were fishing. So they put their biggest lures on the fishing poles out there, casted them into weeds, and slowly dragged the boat in.
I can see that working.
Yeah. I was just again, I was just like, what? He's like, mistakes were made. So make sure you have strong lures on there just in case.
Got them both, but We'll talk offline about the battery thing because there seems like there's a bigger issue there.
No. We got it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we're
lesson
going
learned.
Yeah, lesson learned.
A hard lesson learned.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, Anna, or Andy at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. All right, for Jeff Branke and Andy Zoll, as well as Anna Wells, who's on vacation. Hope you're having a good time, Anna. I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.